stem from a lack of drugs in the bloodstream. And it brings up an interesting topic to open with. Well, thank you for being here on a sunny day. Yeah, we do that. We have done this every single Tuesday for, let's see, we signed our lease here in October 4 years ago. So this October, we've done roughly, 50 classes. And we just, how many times has nobody showed up? Twice?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Really good.
More often, some of you have been here, we don't even have room in here. Right? So,
I remember back then we were the only one that showed up. I think it was during a snowstorm.
It was during a snowstorm. In my truck, remember my truck didn't start.
Good thing we showed up.
Alright. So this little opening here, it really kind of paints the perfect picture for me, and I thought it might be nice to open up today with just a little discussion about congruency. And I think what I want to do is want to ask everyone what they think it means to be congruent.
Consistent?
Consistent. Yeah.
Consistently follow something?
Okay. Anyone else have any other? No, there's no wrong. I just.
Right.
Yeah, because you shouldn't do that.
Sit like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
do your
vote.
exercise.
Sure.
What'd you say?
Not vote.
Why not? Because if it's it would be awfully congruent if everyone voted, and then the system would actually work. Right? What else?
If I don't get adjusted weekly, and that's what I suggest for wellness, because that's me on a wellness level, is like
Yeah.
weekly, maybe once or twice a week. If I don't do that, then I don't live congruently with what I expect of other people.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to expect something from somebody that I'm not doing myself.
That's
So
the best part
gotta be
about
accurate.
building a wellness clinic is you never have to recommend something to anyone else that you wouldn't do for yourself. I never have to tell someone you need surgery, or you need to take this pill, or you need to do this or that. I just was telling people that they needed to clean up their diet, so I decided I was going to do a ketogenic diet. So if I tell someone else to do it, I better be willing to do it myself, and that would be congruent. Also, if I tell someone as a doctor that, hey, you're going down a path that is going to be destructive for your future, and it's a lot easier for me to make that recommendation for someone if I'm going down a path that is congruent with my future. See where I'm going with this? Another incongruency, just random things to think about, is if a teacher gets mad at a student for not doing their homework, but they're not doing their reports that their boss requires. Can you think of any other examples?
I always think of my sports coaches who would always be like, get down and do 50 push-ups. And I'm like,
Sure.
you get down. You gotta do 50 push-ups.
Prevent.
Would it make you want to do it more if they were doing it with you?
Yeah.
I think so too. So the third question is, do you believe that healthcare should be congruent?
Yeah.
I do, and I'll tell you a little story about my past. Some of you have heard this story, and some of you haven't. When I graduated from school, I went to work for the second largest drug dealer in the world, GlaxoSmithKline. And I woke up one day and I was like, man, is this really who I'm supposed to be working for? And there was a little bit of a problem, because when you work for the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world, what usually happens to their employees?
Start taking the drugs.
Yeah.
But you have to sell it.
And do many of their employees go hungry?
No.
They make a lot of money. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money. So coming out of graduating from school, I'm thinking, I'm seeing money signs. I'm like, sweet, great job, But then I started learning about the model, and I never waited in line at the cafeteria at GlaxoSmithKline, which was very nice, by the way. Very nice. tons of different food options, chefs and all that. I never waited in line to get my food because I had it really dialed in. There's one day that I waited in line, and it was for flu shot day. And my boss came to the floor and he said, "Hey everyone, it's our turn to go to get our flu shots, and everyone should go." And we just did this. Cool. We all stood up like sheep and we walked down to get our flu shot. And I remember standing there for like half of an hour waiting to get my flu shot. And I'm like, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? Everyone else is doing it. That was the only time I waited in line at GlaxoSmithKline. So there was some incongruencies in my life. And when I was young, at that point in my life, I also was really sick. I had terrible, terrible sinus condition. And I would get excruciating sinus infections. And I would get mind-blowing headaches. Like, some of you in this room get headaches. And, it's not fun. And I was the guy who also had a bottle of pills and every gym bag, every work bag, every compartment in my car. So that was the life I was living. And then when I decided to go to chiropractic school, everything changed. And I said, it's all about being congruent. So that little quote right there, it's I kind of take it serious though, because what's the first thing that people do when they get a headache? Typically.
Take 2 Excedrin.
Where's the Tylenol? Where's the Excedrin? Hit it up. And I'm not saying that you're a bad person for doing that. I'm just saying sometimes we can get really far if we believe that healthcare needs to be congruent. We can get really far ahead of the game if we learn how to ask the right questions and ask our body what's going on and what's a congruent decision to get this handled. Most patients that I see who suffer from headaches show up and they're on lots of different over-the-counter medications and even some prescription drugs. And I ask them this question. I say, were you designed to have that in your body? And usually the answer is no. And they say, okay, so we're treating a symptom. How about we figure out how to get to the cause? How's that sound? And everyone says, how do we start? And I say, well, it's not going to happen overnight, but surely let's start working on it. And let's get congruent. All right? So I told you my story, and it started when I was very young. And my wife will tell you now the only time I ever get headaches, she calls them my Friday morning headaches, because on Friday mornings are when I have to do everything else besides work with my patients. And I will book up 7 a.m. till 2 in the afternoon with one meeting after the next to try and get everything done. Sometimes I would just be in such pain. She says, you gotta stop this, So stress. 100% stress-related headaches, and identifying that and moving in a more congruent angle with that has changed my life as well. So I'm going to give you a study because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Would you agree with that statement? So I've come a long way with educating my patients. I see you guys are reading this. None of this really matters. The reality is that most people in their life will suffer from headaches. Most people will have some form of really nasty, debilitating headaches. And it's just the reality. And more people that we know suffer from headaches than probably any other condition. The only other one that might be more debilitating, and you might know more people who have neck or low back pain, because that is somewhere between 80 to 90% of people will suffer from some form of debilitating neck or back pain in their life. So, all of us. I have. Right? And headache's probably number 2. So, it's a major issue, and Dr. Ashley and I, we go back and forth. So, let's just go around the room. What are some reasons we get headaches? Let's just have a little open dialogue here.
Not drinking enough water.
Okay, so not enough of something.
I see, in my practice, I see stress.
Too much of something.
Too much, yeah.
Okay, what else?
I think sleep, not sleeping well and then having pillows or
Sure.
moving to a couch and sleeping here.
Yeah. Biomechanical.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Subluxations.
Totally. Yeah, thanks. You win the prize. So that would be too little of something because you'd have blockages. Anything else?
Think of food, certain foods.
Yeah, food sensitivities for sure.
So sensitivities. Yeah. That would be a toxicity.
hangovers. I'm not gonna have them, but
Too much of something.
yeah, I've experienced them.
I've heard about them.
Not me.
Nah.
So we can keep going around the room, and I was filling in the gaps for you because I wanted you to understand that headaches happen for certain reasons, as do all other symptoms. Headache is a symptom; it's the alarm signal that's going off, and we could go around, but everything would come down into a couple categories. You have too much of something, alcohol. All right, or too little of something, too little water. So your deficiency. There's a deficiency, or there's a toxicity, or there's a biomechanical stressor. Right? You talked about another biomechanical stressor. So we can roll it down into certain categories. Too much of something, too little of something. What am I needing? What am I lacking? Or what am I toxic in? And we can pretty much nail out 99.9% of headaches. So rather than asking yourself the question, oh my gosh, I have a headache, what can I take to make it go away? Which is a pretty common response. We could be asking ourselves, okay, I have a terrible headache. What am I toxic in? What am I deficient in? Or what biomechanical stressors do I have? What am I lacking? What do I need? And then you can start piecing it together, and you might actually get to the cause of it. You guys agree with that comment? So the quality of the question that we ask for our healthcare crisis can solve the healthcare crisis that we have and give us the solution to the intervention if we ask the right questions. But if we ask the wrong questions, we can entirely miss it, and we can spend the rest of our life never getting to the bottom of it. There's an author of a book, okay, the title is slipping my mind right now, but he's blind, diagnosed with a rare form of degeneration. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but he became blind at a very young age. He said, you'll never regain your sight. All right? And he's now a motivational and public speaker, and he travels all over the world. And he's blind. So he writes about his life as a blind man. And he incorporates that into his speaking engagements. He's very transformational. And what he says is, as a blind man, and I'm traveling on the road, going all across country, I show up to a strange hotel, in a strange place, in a strange environment, someplace I've never been before, and I'm blind. And what I do is I walk around the room, and I try and understand how the room's set up. Because in the morning when I wake up, I'm still going to be blind, and oftentimes I forget where I am. Because sometimes I'll be in a different city every night for several weeks speaking. And he said, if I get it wrong, I can get myself in a very serious situation. So he goes through and he fills out his room. He wakes up in the morning, he says, I've created an image and a picture in my head, but if I've gotten it wrong or I forget where I am at, I can get myself in a very dangerous situation. Pretty profound, right? And I say, how does that relate to healthcare? Because everything relates to healthcare to me, because I'm a wellness doctor. I say, people show up and they have symptoms. And your headache might be your symptom, your low back pain might be your symptom. And you might ask yourself a question, and you might use some type of intervention, because nobody wants a symptom to be around forever. And you'll go looking for answers. And if you get it wrong, you might spend the rest of your life suffering from something that you had a wrong solution for a problem that wasn't able to uncover it. You might get it wrong, you might spend the rest of your life living in that altered state. You know anyone like that? I do. There's something called the widower's effect. Has anyone heard that story or that effect before? The widower's effect. I'm going to come back to this. If someone knew, I was going to go over it right now. So we'll end with that. The widower's effect. Maybe you can kind of think in your head what that is. My family. My mom's side of the family gets headaches. Guess how many of them?
All of them?
All of them. They all get headaches. And they don't get headaches, they get migraines. Right? Nasty, nasty migraines. Every single one of them. My grandfather gets headaches. My grandfather got headaches his whole life, so bad that he'd get locked into a room in the pitch dark, have to take a couple days off work, thrown up into a pail. Mm-hmm. All right? Some of you know people like this. Maybe some of you had migraines like this before. So he lived his whole life like that and had tried, God bless him, tons of different options. But at the end of the day, there was only one option that was going to work for him, and it was, little tiny pills come in packets. And, you know, I spent my whole life, my grandfather taught me how to hunt and fish and identify trees and tracks. And he spent a lot of time with my grandfather. He was more of a dad to me than a grandfather. And he always had a little bottle of pills in the truck. And we'd go out walking in the woods. He'd have one in his pocket because if a headache came on, boom, it was going to get serious fast. Okay, and that's how I remember my grandpa. And he's still alive. And he still gets migraines. Not as bad anymore, but still gets them. My mom gets them. My aunts both get them. And my uncle gets them. My grandfather's sisters both get them. Everyone gets migraines, okay? And I have to think that there's something else going on. And I'm going to come back to that widower's effect. So it's affected my whole family, these migraines. There's lots of types of headaches. And I want you to know that muscular tension headaches are responsible for 75% of headaches. So 75% of the headaches that people suffer from come from the neuromuscular system. All right, I put that piece of chocolate on there because if you get migraines, some of you know that chocolate is a trigger.
Yes.
Diet is a trigger for sure. However, most people don't really understand what a muscular tension headache is. I mean, a headache's a headache. A couple different types of headache people know about, migraines or tension headaches, but I want you to know that 75% of them originate from muscular tension. And studies have shown, and I have one here, I'm just going to give everyone to take home. Studies have shown that the most effective form of treatment of headaches is addressing the neuromuscular symptom, or addressing the neuromuscular system of the body to unwind the dysfunctional state that the muscular system is stuck in. Now, muscles are very important, and muscles connect to bones. Would you agree? The purpose of muscles is to move bones. Right, so muscles are extremely important. And I like to tell people, muscles can't do anything on their own. They need to have information coming from somewhere. Right? Take a muscle out of the body, it's nothing. Right? Muscles can't do their job without nerve supply. So, nerve supply is critical and key in how the muscle is going to do its job. If the nerve supply is hyperactive, too much spastic nerve supply, what's the muscle going to do? Spasm. If the nerve supply is lacking and it's too little, what's the muscle going to do?
Atrophy.
Yeah, it's going to be flaccid. Okay? So the nerve is responsible for driving the muscle. So if 75% of headaches are muscular tension, can we safely say that there probably is a neurological disconnect there? Absolutely. These are the major types of headaches I tell people about. All right, can you guys see that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see where the band is. You know, sinus headaches. That's what I lived the first part of my life with, and then I moved into kind of like a cluster headache, and that's kind of what I get when I get stressed out. I don't slow it down. People commonly mistake a cluster headache with a migraine because it's right here. Typically over one eye. Yeah. Cluster headaches are similar in a sense, but migraines, you know, typical migraine, you get the aura and you get that whole, you feel it coming on, get some digestive stuff going on, you might get sick to your stomach. But you guys, you know, we don't need to go through all this. But I want to talk about this one right here, the TMJ, the one on the left. So the temporomandibular joint is the second most neurologically innervated joint in the body, second to only the pelvis. Because the pelvis is what keeps us upright and moving. All right? So the temporomandibular joint is here. Anyone ever got a popcorn kernel stuck in their teeth? Yeah? So a popcorn kernel, you know, how bad does that drive you nuts?
I carry floss everywhere now.
Yeah. Anybody ever get like get a hair in their mouth? Yeah. Anybody ever go to a dentist and get a filling drilled and he or she doesn't level it out all the way? Yeah. So those two parts of the body are extremely innervated. So if there's any dysfunction of the pelvis and if there's any dysfunction of the joint, we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a crazy storm. Now the other part of the body that has a lot of innervation is the upper cervical neck. Okay? The C1 occipital junction, I'm going to show you a picture of that, is highly innervated. And the nerves that control the jaw joint come from the upper neck. All right, so you might argue that the upper cervical neck is more innervated than the jaw, just because that's where the nerves come from. And the jaw joint is responsible for a lot of headaches. Does anyone, I'm not going to ask you, but a lot of people get clicking and popping in their jaw. Most kids today I know get braces. I mean, if you have a child that didn't get braces, you're, pretty lucky. Yeah. So braces also change the structure of your mouth and can disrupt the temporomandibular joint. It can be a major source of headaches for a lot of people. All right, and I'm going to come back to something really interesting. So here's a picture for you of the upper neck, and you can see where the nerves come out of the vertebra. So the top 3 vertebrae all send signals that go to the upper jaw. They also send signals that go up. So the top 3 vertebrae have nerves that go up, and up is the head. So if you have neurological interferences of the spine, guess what you're probably going to have? Some form of headaches. And I like to show that picture so that people can understand. There's another picture of the nerves of the top 3 vertebrae and how they go up. They shoot up and they control a lot of the anatomy of the neck. Some of you in this room know a lot about the muscular system and how the top 2 vertebrae have really unique muscle groups that create these fans. All right? And the top part of the neck is responsible for 70% of rotation of the head. 70% of rotation in the head. And if you have neurological disconnect in that region, or if you have degeneration, or if you've had car accidents or injuries, you're probably not going to be able to rotate your head very far. And those muscles get really nasty and tight, and those nerves get blocked. See that? I like to show people that picture. I bet if I went around the room and just started lightly massaging at the base of everyone's skull, they would tell me that they didn't want me to stop. Do you agree? Yeah. Right. So 75% of rotation of the neck comes from that top area, which is why we're so important to work on getting those nerves and those vertebrae in the right position. Yeah, there's another picture of the muscles. Here's a really interesting article. 95% of headaches are primary headaches, such as tension, migraine, and cluster. The greatest majority of primary headaches associated with muscle tension in the neck. We kind of already went over that. Here's what I want to show you. This is why. Because we have poor posture. All right, and the problem's not getting better, it's getting worse. It's getting so worse so fast because of something called cell phones. All right, so this is what happens when you go down and you look down and you text. And I text, I'm just mindful of it, and I do spinal hygiene to undo what I'm doing when I'm texting. Okay, if we go back to this picture, physics tells us that if your head weighs about 10 to 15 pounds, which it does, every inch that your head comes in front of your body puts however many pounds of pressure your head multiplied by a factor of how many inches your head comes forward. So if my head weighs 12 pounds and it's coming forward 2 inches, how many extra pounds of pressure are on my head and neck? 2 times 12 is 24!
Roll it.
Ah.
I didn't know I was doing that.
Yeah, that's why when you work on someone's upper neck muscles, they have tail and they go, I feel like my head's floating. And you're like, it practically is. Or sometimes I'll give someone adjustment and they'll go, I feel like my head's floating. And I go, it's because we've taken 24 pounds of pressure off your neck. Or worse, if you're texting and your head comes forward, 6 inches, 6 times, 12 is what? A lot. You're almost 80 pounds of pressure on your neck. Fact. Is that wild? This is not good. This is not a good time for advancements in human physiology, because we are surely going back down the other direction. We're de-evolving. You see that poster of the caveman? Oh, it's an ape and then a caveman and then a cell phone shows up and you start going back down the other direction.
So
Okay.
Google Glasses need to catch on.
What's that?
Google Glasses need to catch on. We just see it on your glasses.
Oh man, that's going to create some problems.
Very big problem.
Yeah. So I met a guy once, and he told me that there's an emotional connection to headaches, and I said I'd agree with you 100%. And he said I had literally tried everything for my headaches, and I realized through some deep meditation and through some different types of work that I did with from some spiritual advisors that I had an emotional disconnect in my life. And he said I was spending thousands of dollars going through this regression and trying to heal from some of my emotional traumas in my life. And he said it got so expensive that I figured out how to do it on my own. I said, wow, that's cool. And he said I got to the point where I feel migraine coming on. I could take my finger and I could touch my forehead and I could pass the headache from my forehead into my finger and I could feel it leave my body and I could biff it off my finger. Wow. I said, that's amazing. He said, you believe me? I said, I do. So I'm asking you, do you believe that you can do that? Yeah. Your body and brain is so powerful that you can do anything. And I'm bringing this up because, you know, there's a very, it's very important to understand that emotional stressors are driving your health as much as physical and chemical stressors. So identifying if you have emotional stressors in your life and releasing those can be the key to set you free. And I like to bring that up when I teach the headache class. So Tylenol. You just take a look at this. Okay, last year Tylenol was responsible for 56,000 emergency room visits, 26,000 hospitalizations, and an estimated 458 deaths a year. That stuff that you buy over the counter that you think is harmless, and people pop this stuff like candy. All right, this is a very, very, very powerful drug. Some people think that it shouldn't be able to be sold. Acetaminophen should be sold over the counter, and I would argue that you might be right. All right, there's very powerful things that we can do that are natural for us, like essential oils, chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, emotional healing. I really want you to think about when you see someone popping this stuff, how badly it's damaging their body, because it is. It's not possible that you take this stuff and it doesn't affect your state. I just marvel. You know, you can go into Google and type this in, and you can find this. Over 400 people die from Tylenol. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Okay. I want everyone to take one of these home, and we're not going to go over it because I gave you enough numbers. I already saw Mary was scratching her head when I made her do 2 times 12. There's a great band. It's Ween. Ween does a song. It's called
You think you're funny?
3.
Yeah.
And they teach you your times tables of 3.
Sesame Street, they say.
Oh yeah, you remember that? Schoolhouse Rock.
Right? Yeah.
That's right.
I'll put out one thing on here because I have to put this in for kids. Migraines exist in children as young as 18 months. I do believe that a majority of colic in children is coming from migraines or headaches because of the birthing process. It can be so traumatic for babies, yanking and pulling and twisting. You know, I got to deliver my baby, and I was still just so conscious about movement of her head and no pulling. I mean, the midwives, you know, I was like commenting on it as we were the birthing process. I was, you know, and then she got checked within 30 seconds. Like I gave her a first adjustment. So migraines do tend to be biological. Approximately, this is what I want to say, 90% of migraine sufferers have a familial history of migraines. All right, it's in there. You guys can see it's the last bullet point. As a child with one parent suffering from migraines has a 50% chance of inheriting and a 75% chance of both parents experiencing migraines. So if you were born in a family that gets migraines, guess what? You just got at least 50% chance you're going to have migraines. Okay, and I told you the story about my family. So the last thing I'm going to tell you here is the widower's effect. And you can read this article. This is a really nice research study that we've done that shows that 80 to 90% of migraines can be reversed through proper chiropractic. The widower's effect is this. This is a Harvard study, by the way, so I think Harvard puts some pretty good stuff out. They did a study and they found that couples over the age of 65 years old, if the spouse dies, the other spouse has a 32% chance of also dying within a couple years. And some of us have seen this real, you know, in our family where grandma passes and grandpa passes in a couple weeks later. All right.
Carrie Fisher.
Grandparents are the same way.
Dr. Ashley's grandparents.
Grandparents are the same way.
Yeah. You see this all over. So it's, it became known as the widower's effect. Harvard did the statistical study on this, and they came up with these numbers. But we've seen this in our lives, and I apply everything to health. So I say, okay, so if people year round are suffering from something, your chances of suffering from the same thing astronomically increase, without a doubt, whether you like it or not. The only variable there is if you identify that I'm not defined by my genes. And I will tell you right now that your genes do not define your future. They define how you look, but they don't define how your body functions and heals. And if you come to my cancer lecture, I'm going to explain exactly why that's the case. And your genes are responsible for certain things in your life. And in the past 100 years, science has gone down the path of the Human Genome Project, which has been astonishing and amazing in many ways. But when science and medicine took that route, we actually went further down the rabbit hole for getting people healthy. Because the healing power lies within you, and certain genes can be turned on and can be turned off, and that happens through your environment. So we're not defined by...
You're talking about epigenetics.
I'm talking about epigenetics. Yep. So I wanted you to leave you with the widower's effect and let you know that if maybe we've had the excuse of, well, I'm this way because my parents are this way, that might be the case, but it doesn't have to any longer. And you don't have to be defined by that. So I ask people who are coming here as new patients, I say, what is your health goal? And then I always ask them, I say, how willing are you to be an active participant in getting to the bottom of this? And the people that say, one or two or not really, I say, I might not be the right fit. And people say, I'm all in. I say, hey, we're going to have fun together. We can start making some progress. Cool? Cool. Come to the cancer lecture.